Are these my kids?
The ceramic plate shattered against the diner floor as Luna's trembling hands betrayed her, not from exhaustion this time, but because the most powerful scent she'd ever encountered just walked through Mama's kitchen door, and her 4-year-old quadruplets suddenly went rigid behind the counter, their little wolves recognizing something their human minds couldn't understand. Luna stared at the broken pieces of blue ceramic scattered across the linoleum, her heart hammering against her ribs. The coffee she'd been pouring continued to stream from the overturned pot in her other hand, pooling around her worn sneakers. She couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Because that scent, pine and winter storm and raw male power, belonged to the one person she'd spent 5 years running from. Damon Silvercrest. Mama? Kai's small voice cut through her paralysis. Her eldest by 3 minutes stood frozen by the napkin dispenser, his dark hair falling across eyes that had gone from warm brown to molten gold in the space of a heartbeat. Mama, something's wrong. Luna forced herself to look up, past the shattered plate, past the spreading coffee, to the man filling the doorway of her sanctuary. 6'4" of lethal grace in a black leather jacket, his silver eyes sweeping the diner with the calculating intensity of a predator. His dark hair was longer now, touching his shoulders, and there were new lines around his eyes, but God help her, he was still the most beautiful man she'd ever seen. And the most dangerous. Luna. Her name on his lips was barely a whisper, but it hit her like a physical blow. 5 years of carefully constructed walls crumbled in an instant, and the mate bond she'd thought was dead and buried roared back to life with vicious intensity. Behind the counter, her babies were changing. Zara's tiny hands had curled into claws that dented the metal napkin holder. Finn's head was tilted at an impossible angle, nostrils flaring as he scented the air. And Sage, her quiet little dreamer, was growling, actually growling, a sound no 4-year-old should be able to make. Table 7 is still waiting for their check, she said stupidly, because her brain had apparently decided this was the time to focus on customer service instead of the fact that her children were about to shift in front of half the town. Damon's gaze moved from her face to the 4 small figures behind the counter, and Luna watched his expression change. The careful mask of indifference fell away, replaced by something raw and hungry and absolutely terrifying. "Kids," she said, her voice sharper than she intended. "Go wash up for lunch." None of them moved. They stood in a perfect line, 4 pairs of golden eyes fixed on the Alpha King like tiny sentinels guarding their territory. The temperature in the diner seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Luna." Damon's voice was rougher now, his control slipping. "We need to talk." "No." She dropped the coffee pot, not caring when it clattered against the floor. "We don't." A man in a gray suit appeared behind Damon, his beta, Marcus, if she remembered correctly. He leaned close to the Alpha King's ear, his voice too low for human hearing but perfectly clear to her enhanced senses. "The missing heirs, Your Majesty. The timeline matches. For children, the right age." Marcus's eyes found hers across the diner, cold and calculating. "The resemblance is remarkable." Luna's blood turned to ice. She'd known this day would come eventually, but she'd hoped, God, how she'd hoped, that she'd have more time. "Mama?" This time it was Sage who spoke, her daughter's small voice trembling with confusion and something else. Something that sounded uncomfortably like recognition. "Who is that man? Why does he smell like us?" The question hung in the air like a live wire. Around them, the handful of human patrons continued their conversations, oblivious to the supernatural tension crackling between the werewolves. Old Pete stirred his coffee at the corner booth. Mary Henderson gossiped with her sister about the new principal at the elementary school. The world kept turning while Luna's carefully constructed life crumbled around her. "He doesn't smell like us," she lied, moving around the counter to put herself between Damon and her children. "You're imagining things." But even as she said it, she could see the truth written in his silver eyes. He knew. Somehow, despite the suppressants she'd been taking, despite the spell she'd paid a witch in the next town to cast, despite every precaution she'd taken to hide their scents, he knew. "Your Majesty," Marcus murmured again, his hand moving to the phone in his jacket pocket. Shall I contact the council? No. Damon's voice was granite, his attention never wavering from Luna's face. Not yet. He moved toward the counter with predatory grace, and Luna's children shifted closer together, their small bodies radiating a protective instinct that should have been impossible at their age. Kai stepped forward, placing himself in front of his siblings with the unconscious authority of a born leader. Don't come any closer, the 4-year-old said, and his voice carried an alpha's command that made every werewolf in the room freeze. Including Damon. The Alpha King stared down at the little boy with something between pride and shock written across his aristocratic features. You're Kai, he said softly. It wasn't a question. How do you know my name? Kai's golden eyes narrowed, and Luna watched in horror as her baby began to shift, his small frame trembling with the effort of containing his wolf. Because, Damon said, his voice rough with emotion, you're my son. The diner went dead silent. Even the humans seemed to sense something significant had just happened, their conversations trailing off into uncomfortable quiet. Luna felt the blood drain from her face as 4 pairs of golden eyes turned to stare at her with accusation and confusion. That's not true, she whispered, but the words sounded hollow even to her own ears. Damon's smile was sharp as a blade. Isn't it? For children, born during the blood moon 5 years ago. Royal blood running through their veins, alpha power in their tiny bodies. His gaze moved to each of her babies in turn. Kai, born to lead. Zara, born to fight. Finn, born to heal. And Sage. He paused, studying her youngest daughter with an intensity that made Luna's wolf bare its teeth. Sage, born to see what others cannot. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. Born to be the moon's chosen. Stop. Luna's voice cracked like a whip. Stop talking to them. They're my children too, Luna. The mate bond pulsed between them, painful and insistent, demanding she submit to her alpha's will. But Luna had learned to be stronger than her biology. She'd had to be. They're mine, she said fiercely. I raised them. I fed them. I protected them. You don't get to waltz in here after 5 years and claim them like their property. Damon's eyes flashed silver. I didn't know they existed. Because I didn't want you to know. The words hit him like a physical blow, and Luna felt a savage satisfaction at the pain that flickered across his face. Good. Let him hurt the way she'd hurt when she discovered his engagement announcement in the pack newsletter 2 days after their mating ceremony. Let him feel what it was like to have his heart ripped out and stomped on. But her satisfaction was short-lived, because her children were listening to every word, their young minds trying to process revelations that would challenge everything they thought they knew about themselves. You told us our daddy was dead, Zara said, her small voice carrying a hurt that made Luna's chest ache. You lied to us. I didn't, Luna started, then stopped. Because she had lied, hadn't she? Not about Damon being dead, but about so many other things. About why they lived in a human town instead of a pack. About why they couldn't play with other werewolf children. About why she flinched every time someone mentioned the Alpha King's name on the news. The engagement was a political arrangement, Damon said quietly, reading the conflict in her expression with the ease of someone who'd once known her better than she knew herself. It meant nothing. It meant everything to me. The confession slipped out before she could stop it, 5 years of buried pain bleeding through her carefully maintained composure. She'd loved him with the desperate intensity of a first mate bond, had believed they had something special, something worth fighting for. Finding out he'd planned to marry another woman while she was pregnant with his children had nearly destroyed her. Damon stepped closer, and this time her children didn't try to stop him. Luna. No. She backed away, her hip hitting the counter. You made your choice. I made mine. We've been fine without you. Have you? His silver gaze swept over her exhausted face, the dark circles under her eyes, the way her uniform hung loose on her too thin frame. You look like hell, sweetheart. The endearment hit her like a slap. Don't call me that. It's what you are. What you've always been. Your sweetheart is probably wondering where you are right now. Damon's mouth curved into a humorless smile. I never married her. The engagement was broken off 4.5 years ago. Luna's heart stuttered. What? The night I realized my mate was carrying my children and running from me instead of coming home. His voice was rough with old grief. I've been looking for you ever since. Mama, Kai said urgently, tugging on her apron. Something's happening to Sage. Luna spun around to find her youngest daughter swaying on her feet, her golden eyes rolled back to show only the whites. When Sage spoke, her voice was different, older, weighted with otherworldly knowledge. The hunters come with the dawn, she whispered. Silver bullets and wolfsbane chains. They know the king is here. They know about the children. Then she collapsed. Luna caught her before she hit the floor, cradling her daughter's small body as Sage's eyes fluttered closed. Around them, the diner erupted into chaos as the remaining humans suddenly remembered they had somewhere else to be, filing out with the kind of studied casualness that spoke of supernatural compulsion. Marcus was already on his phone, speaking in rapid, clipped sentences about perimeter sweeps and security protocols. Damon moved behind the counter without invitation, his large hands gentle as he checked Sage's pulse. How long has she been having visions? He asked. Since she was 3, Luna admitted reluctantly. But never anything this clear. Never about. She swallowed hard. Never about hunters. Damon's face went cold as winter. They found us. Us? Luna laughed bitterly. There is no us. There's me and my children, and there's you. That's it. Luna. His hand covered hers where it rested on Sage's forehead. Like it or not, you're the mother of the next generation of royalty. That makes you a target whether you're with me or not. She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him she could protect her family without his help. But Sage's vision played in her mind on repeat, and Luna knew her 4-year-old daughter had never been wrong about these things. We have to leave, she said quietly. Tonight. Before what? Kai demanded. His young face was set in determined lines that reminded Luna painfully of his father. Who are the hunters? Why do they want to hurt us? Luna looked at her children, really looked at them, and saw the truth she'd been trying to deny for 5 years. They weren't going to stay hidden forever. They weren't going to be content with wiping tables and sorting silverware while their wolves grew stronger every day. They were Silvercrest children, born to rule, and sooner or later that heritage would demand recognition. Maybe it was already too late to run. The hunters, she said slowly, are humans who think werewolves are monsters. They've been hunting our kind for centuries. Are we monsters? Finn asked in his quiet way. No, Damon said before Luna could answer. We're different. Some humans fear what they don't understand. Zara's small hands had curled into fists. If they try to hurt us, I'll fight them. No fighting, Luna said automatically, but even as she spoke, she could see the futility in it. Her children were what they were. She could suppress their nature for a while longer, but not forever. And if hunters were really coming? There's a safe house 2 hours north of here, Damon said quietly. Warded against tracking spells, defended by my best soldiers. The children would be protected. I'm not going anywhere with you. Then don't. His silver eyes met hers steadily. But let me take them. Let me keep them safe. The offer hung between them like a blade. Luna knew what he was really asking, not just for her to trust him with their children's lives, but for her to acknowledge what they were. What he was to them. Their father. Their king. The mate she'd never stopped loving, no matter how hard she tried. Sage stirred in her arms, golden eyes fluttering open. Mama, she whispered. The moon says it's time to come home. Luna's throat closed around a sob she refused to shed. 5 years of running, of hiding, of trying to build a normal life for her extraordinary children, and it all came down to this moment. This choice. Safety or freedom. Truth or comfortable lies? Damon or the unknown dangers waiting in the dark? The hunters, she said finally. How long do we have? Marcus looked up from his phone, his face grim. Dawn, just like the little one said. Maybe 6 hours. 6 hours to decide the rest of their lives. Luna looked at her children, saw the trust in their golden eyes, the way they instinctively leaned toward their father despite having just met him. Maybe it was already too late to keep running. Maybe it was time to go home. Chapter 2. 5 years ago. The marble floors of the Silvercrest throne room were cold beneath Luna's bare knees, but not as cold as the silver eyes staring down at her from the raised dais. Her hands instinctively curved around her still small belly, protecting the precious lives growing inside her, lives that might not survive what was about to happen. You disgust me, Damon's voice cut through the assembled pack court like a blade, each word precise and devastating. The man she'd mated with under the full moon 3 months ago, the man who'd whispered promises of forever against her skin, looked at her now like she was something he'd scraped off his shoe. Luna tried to speak, to defend herself against the accusations Marcus had laid out so carefully, but the formal rejection ceremony demanded her silence. Ancient pack law dictated that an accused mate could only listen as her sins were recited before the court. Evidence of your betrayal with Alpha Vincent Redhawk, Marcus continued smoothly from his position beside the throne, his voice carrying the weight of righteous indignation. Photographs. Witness testimony. Your own confession. I never confessed to anything, Luna managed to choke out, breaking protocol. Damon's hand slammed against the throne's armrest. Silence. His alpha command crashed over her like a physical blow, forcing her wolf to submit even as her human heart shattered. You've said enough lies, Luna Blackwood. Your deception ends here. The assembled wolves watched in fascination and horror as their future Luna was stripped of everything she'd ever dreamed of having. Luna could smell their emotions, some sympathetic, others excited by the drama, still others hungry for the power vacuum her disgrace would create. The photographs are fake, she whispered, but her words were lost in the vast throne room. Marcus held up a manila envelope, his face a mask of sorrowful duty. Additional evidence came to light this morning. Financial records showing payments from the Redhawk pack. Messages arranging secret meetings. He paused, letting the implications sink in. The Luna-to-be has been selling pack secrets to our enemies while carrying our alpha's children. The gasp that went up from the court was like a physical slap. Luna's vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. None of that is true. Damon, please, you know me. You know I would never. I know nothing about you, Damon snarled, rising from his throne with predatory grace. I see that now. You played your role well, little Omega. Sweet and innocent, grateful for my attention. But you were scheming from the beginning, weren't you? Plotting to weaken this pack from within. Luna's wolf howled in agony as her mate's rejection tore through their bond like acid. The babies, she gasped, her hands pressing harder against her stomach. Damon, think about the babies. Something flickered in his silver eyes, pain, maybe, or regret. But it was gone so quickly Luna wondered if she'd imagined it. Those bastards aren't mine, he said coldly, and Luna felt something break inside her chest that had nothing to do with the mate bond. No child of mine would grow in the womb of a traitor. The formal words of rejection came next, spoken in the ancient language of their kind, each syllable a nail in the coffin of everything Luna had believed about love and loyalty and happily ever after. She felt the bond stretch and snap, felt her wolf retreat deep inside her mind to escape the pain, felt her body begin to shut down as nature tried to reclaim the lives her mate no longer wanted. But her babies fought. Even at 12 weeks, they fought with a ferocity that kept her heart beating and her lungs working. They refused to let their mother die, refused to let Damon's rejection destroy what they were meant to become. Get her out of my sight, Damon commanded, turning his back on her with cruel finality. She has 1 hour to gather her belongings and leave pack territory. If she's still here at sunset, she'll face the consequences of trespassing. Guards moved toward her, but Luna found her strength and stood on shaking legs. I'll leave, she said quietly. But someday, you're going to realize what you've done. Someday, you're going to know the truth. The truth, Damon said without turning around, is that you were never worthy of being Luna. Present day. Luna jerked back to the present as a hand touched her shoulder, her wolf snarling at the unexpected contact before she recognized Damon's scent. She was sitting on the floor of Mama's kitchen with Sage still cradled in her arms, her other 3 children crowded around her with worried expressions. Luna. Damon's voice was different now, softer, uncertain in a way the Alpha King never allowed himself to be in public. You were somewhere else. She looked up at him, seeing past the powerful werewolf to the man who destroyed her world with his accusations and cruelty. I was remembering the last time we were in the same room together. His jaw tightened. Luna. Remembering how you called my babies bastards before they were even born. The words hit him like a physical blow, and Luna felt a dark satisfaction at the pain that flickered across his aristocratic features. Let him remember. Let him live with what he'd done. Marcus appeared in her peripheral vision, his phone pressed to his ear as he spoke in rapid, clipped sentences. Luna studied his face, older now, more refined, but still carrying that same calculating coldness she remembered from the throne room. Still watching everything with those pale blue eyes that missed nothing. Still playing his games. The perimeter is secure, Your Majesty, Marcus reported, sliding his phone into his jacket pocket. But we should move soon. This location is too exposed. Luna's wolf bristled at his presence. Even now, 5 years later and hundreds of miles from pack territory, Marcus made her skin crawl. There had always been something wrong about Damon's cousin, something that set her teeth on edge whenever he smiled his cold, perfect smile. Mama, Kai said quietly, his young face serious beyond his years, something's wrong with that man. Luna's blood turned to ice. Her children had inherited more than just enhanced senses from their father's bloodline, they'd inherited the ability to detect deception, to smell lies and ill intent on other wolves. It was a rare gift, usually reserved for alphas and their potential heirs. What do you mean, baby? She asked, keeping her voice carefully neutral. Kai's golden eyes never left Marcus. He smells wrong. Like when food is pretty on the outside but rotten underneath. Marcus's smile didn't waver, but Luna caught the flash of irritation in his pale eyes. Children have such active imaginations, he said smoothly. Perhaps they're simply overwhelmed by meeting their father for the first time. Perhaps, Luna agreed, pulling Sage closer. But her son's words echoed in her mind, adding weight to suspicions she'd carried for 5 years. Marcus had been the one to present evidence of her supposed betrayal. Marcus had orchestrated every detail of her public humiliation. And now Marcus was here, watching her children with the cold calculation of a predator evaluating prey. Damon moved closer, his presence both comforting and terrifying. We need to talk, he said quietly. About what happened 5 years ago. About the evidence Marcus presented. What about it? But even as Luna asked the question, she could see something had changed in Damon's expression. The absolute certainty that had driven him to reject her was cracking, replaced by doubt and something that looked almost like guilt. There are inconsistencies, he admitted reluctantly. Things that don't add up. The timing of the photographs, the witness statements. He ran a hand through his dark hair, a gesture so familiar it made Luna's chest ache. I've been investigating since I learned you were pregnant when you fled. Since I realized I might have made a mistake. Luna laughed bitterly. Might have made a mistake. You destroyed our bond. You called me a traitor and a whore in front of your entire court. You said my children weren't yours. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. You told me I was never worthy of being Luna. I was wrong. The words came out rough, like they were being torn from his throat. God help me, Luna, I think I was wrong about everything. Your Majesty, Marcus interjected smoothly, perhaps this conversation would be better conducted in a more secure location. The children shouldn't have to witness. The children should hear this, Damon said sharply, and Luna saw Marcus's mask slip for just a moment, revealing something cold and calculating underneath. They deserve to know the truth about their parents. Do they? Marcus's voice carried the faintest edge of challenge. Even if that truth might endanger them further? These hunters won't discriminate between legitimate heirs and... Finish that sentence, Damon's voice dropped to a lethal whisper, and see what happens. The temperature in the diner plummeted as the Alpha King's power filled the small space. Luna's children pressed closer to her, their own wolves responding to their father's display of dominance with instinctive submission. Even Marcus took a step back, though his expression remained carefully neutral. But Luna saw the flash of hatred in his pale eyes, quickly hidden but unmistakably there. And suddenly, pieces of a puzzle she'd been trying to solve for 5 years clicked into place. "You set me up," she breathed, staring at Marcus with dawning horror. "All of it. The photographs, the witnesses, the financial records. You fabricated everything." Marcus's smile was ice-cold perfection. "That's a serious accusation, Luna. Do you have any proof?" "I don't need proof. I can smell lies, remember? It's one of the gifts that comes with being mated to an alpha." Luna stood slowly, settling Sage more comfortably against her hip. "The question is why? Why destroy your own pack's future? Why eliminate the Luna and her children?" "Because," Damon said quietly, understanding flooding his voice, "someone wanted to be my heir. Someone who would inherit everything if I died without legitimate children." Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "You're both being ridiculous. I'm completely loyal to this pack, to my alpha. Everything I did was to protect." "You're lying," Finn said suddenly, his quiet voice cutting through Marcus's protests. Luna's third-born rarely spoke, preferring to observe and listen, but when he did talk, people listened. "You're lying about everything. You hurt our mama. You tried to hurt us before we were even born." "The child is confused," Marcus said dismissively, but Luna caught the way his hand moved toward his jacket, toward whatever weapon he carried there. "My children are never confused about liars," Luna said softly. "It's in their blood. Their father's blood." She saw the moment Marcus realized his carefully constructed facade was crumbling. Saw the calculation in his pale eyes as he weighed his options, and came to a conclusion that made Luna's blood turn to ice. "You should have stayed hidden," he said conversationally, his hand moving inside his jacket. "Should have kept running instead of letting sentiment draw you back into Damon's orbit. Now I'll have to clean up this mess the hard way." The gun appeared in his hand with practiced smoothness, not a regular gun, but something that gleamed silver in the diner's fluorescent lighting. Luna's nostrils flared as she caught the scent of wolfsbane coating the bullets. "Marcus," Damon's voice was deadly quiet. "What are you doing?" "What I should have done 5 years ago," Marcus replied, the gun steady in his grip. "Eliminating the threat to pack stability. To my rightful place at your side." Luna moved without thinking, her body shielding her children as her wolf surged to the surface for the first time in years. But before she could fully shift, before Damon could reach his treacherous cousin, the diner's front door exploded inward in a shower of glass and splintered wood. Men in black tactical gear poured through the opening, their weapons trained on every werewolf in the room. Luna counted at least 6 of them, all carrying the same silver-gleamed guns, all moving with the practiced efficiency of people who hunted her kind for a living. "Hunters," she whispered, and felt her children's wolves respond to the threat with a surge of protective instinct that had them growing and baring teeth that were already beginning to sharpen. The leader of the group removed his helmet, revealing a scarred face and cold gray eyes. "Alpha King Damon Silvercrest," he said formally. "You're under arrest for violations of the supernatural accords. Your children are to be remanded to hunter custody for evaluation and potential elimination." "Like hell they are," Luna snarled, her own canines extending as her wolf prepared for battle. But it was Marcus who spoke next, his voice carrying smug satisfaction. "Right on time, gentlemen. As I promised, here's your target, and the bonus of 4 unregistered werewolf children with royal bloodlines." Luna stared at him in horror as the truth hit her like a physical blow. "You called them. You led the hunters here. Marcus's smile was razor-sharp. "I've been working with them for years, Luna. Someone had to keep the werewolf population in check, make sure they didn't get too comfortable thinking they were safe." His pale eyes found Damon's shocked face. "Did you really think your cousin would let bastard children threaten his inheritance?" "They're not bastards," Damon said quietly, his voice carrying a lethal calm that made the temperature drop another 10 degrees. "They're my legitimate heirs. Luna is my true mate. And you," his silver eyes began to glow with an inner light that spoke of barely contained violence. "You destroyed everything I cared about." "Everything you cared about was weakness," Marcus snapped. "The pack needs strong leadership, not some alpha mooning over an omega who." His words cut off in a choking gasp as Damon's power slammed into him like a physical blow. Luna watched in fascination as the man who'd orchestrated her downfall fell to his knees, his carefully maintained composure cracking under the weight of his alpha's true fury. But the hunters were already moving, their silver weapons trained on Damon and her children with deadly precision. Luna knew they had seconds before bullets started flying, seconds to save the 4 most important lives in her world. "Sage," she whispered urgently to her youngest daughter. "Can you see anything? Any way out of this?" Sage's golden eyes rolled back until only the whites showed, her small body trembling with the effort of forcing a vision. When she spoke, her voice was layered with otherworldly knowledge. "The moon remembers," she whispered. "The moon remembers the truth of what was broken. The bond that never died. The love that survived betrayal and lies and years of separation." Her eyes snapped back to focus, suddenly urgent. "Mama, you have to let him in. You have to let Daddy fix what was broken." Luna understood immediately, even as her rational mind rebelled against the idea. The mate bond that connected her to Damon had been damaged by his rejection, weakened by years of separation and mistrust. But it had never been fully severed. She could feel it now, a thin thread of silver light connecting her heart to his, waiting to be strengthened. If they reformed their bond completely, if she allowed herself to truly mate with him again, their combined power might be enough to protect their children from the hunters. But it would mean trusting him completely, opening herself to the same pain that had nearly destroyed her 5 years ago. "Luna," Damon said quietly, understanding flickering in his silver eyes. "Let me prove I was wrong. Let me prove you were never anything but perfect." The lead hunter raised his weapon. "Enough talking. Take them down." Luna looked at her children, her beautiful, powerful, extraordinary children who deserved so much better than a world that saw them as monsters to be eliminated. Then she looked at Damon, seeing past 5 years of hurt to the man who'd mated with her under the full moon, who'd whispered promises of forever that he'd later broken. Maybe it was time to find out if some promises were worth keeping after all. "Do it," she whispered. And as the first gunshots exploded through the diner's windows, Luna opened her heart and let her mate come home. Chapter 3. 3 days later. The fluorescent lights of Millbrook General Hospital's pediatric wing hummed with an electric intensity that had nothing to do with the building's wiring. Luna sat beside Sage's bed, her daughter's small hand burning with fever in her own, and tried not to think about how everything had gone wrong so quickly. They'd escaped the diner. Barely. The reformed mate bond between her and Damon had created a surge of power that shattered every window in a 3-block radius, sending the hunters scrambling for cover while Luna and her family disappeared into the night. But Marcus had vanished too, melting away in the chaos like the snake he'd always been. Now Sage lay unconscious, her golden eyes closed, her breathing shallow and labored. The human doctors had no name for what was killing her, a rare condition that Dr. Sarah Chen, the supernatural pediatrician Luna had been forced to call in secret, had identified with grim certainty. Royal blood syndrome, Dr. Chen had explained in hushed tones. It only affects werewolf children with pure alpha bloodlines. The power is too much for their young bodies to contain without proper guidance and pack support. Pack support that Sage had never had, because Luna had been too proud and too afraid to reach out to the werewolf community that might have helped her daughter years ago. "How long does she have?" Luna asked quietly, not taking her eyes off Sage's pale face. Dr. Chen checked the monitors, her expression troubled. "Without intervention from a pack healer?" Maybe 48 hours. The fever is burning through her system faster than her wolf can repair the damage. And with intervention? She needs an alpha's power to stabilize her own. Someone from her bloodline, someone strong enough to anchor her wolf before it consumes itself. Dr. Chen's dark eyes met Luna's with quiet sympathy. She needs her father, Luna. Luna closed her eyes, feeling the weight of 5 years' worth of mistakes settling on her shoulders like lead. She thought she was protecting her children by keeping them away from their heritage, but instead she'd condemned Sage to suffer alone. The mate bond that connected her to Damon pulsed with his worry and frustration. He was close, she could feel him prowling the hospital corridors like a caged wolf, desperate to help but not knowing how. She'd sent him away after they'd arrived, too overwhelmed by everything that had happened to deal with his presence on top of Sage's illness. But maybe it was time to stop running from the truth. Mama? Kai appeared in the doorway, his young face drawn with exhaustion. Behind him, Zara and Finn hovered anxiously, all 3 children radiating the same restless energy that had been building since Sage collapsed. Is she going to be okay? Luna forced a smile she didn't feel. She's strong, baby. She's going to fight this. But even as she said the words, Sage's breathing became more labored, her small body convulsing as another wave of fever racked her system. The monitors erupted in urgent beeping, and Dr. Chen rushed forward to check her vitals. Her temperature is spiking again, the doctor said grimly. Luna, we're running out of time. It was Finn who spoke next, his quiet voice carrying absolute certainty. Daddy's here. I can smell him in the hallway. Luna's wolf lifted its head, recognizing the truth in her son's words. Damon's scent, pine and winter storm and raw male power, was growing stronger, moving toward them with determined purpose. Should I tell him to go away? Zara asked, but there was something in her young voice that suggested she already knew the answer. Luna looked at her dying daughter, then at the 3 children who needed their sister more than they'd needed anything in their short lives. The choice had already been made the moment Dr. Chen had explained what was killing Sage. No, she said quietly. Let him come. Damon appeared in the doorway like a force of nature barely contained in human form. His silver eyes went immediately to Sage's still form, and Luna watched his face transform with an expression of such raw pain it took her breath away. How long has she been like this? His voice was carefully controlled, but Luna could feel his fury and helplessness through their bond. Since this morning. It's royal blood syndrome. Her wolf is too strong for her human body to contain without pack support. Luna's voice caught on the words. She needs an alpha's power to stabilize her. Damon moved to the other side of Sage's bed, his large hands gentle as he touched their daughter's burning forehead. Then she'll have it. But even as he spoke, Luna could see it wasn't going to be that simple. Sage's wolf didn't recognize him, had never bonded with her father's power the way a pack child would have. The connection that should have been forged in infancy was missing, leaving her adrift in her own supernatural strength. It's not working, Dr. Chen said after several tense minutes. Her wolf doesn't know how to accept his power. The bond between them was never established. Then we establish it now, Damon said fiercely. It's not that easy. The bonding process requires. Dr. Chen stopped, her eyes widening as she looked between Luna and Damon. Actually, there might be a way. But it would require both parents to participate. The family bond, reinforced by the mate bond, might be strong enough to bridge the gap. Luna's heart clenched. What do we have to do? Partial shift, both of you. Let your wolves call to hers, show her she belongs to a pack even if that pack is just you 3. The idea of shifting even partially in a human hospital made Luna's skin crawl, but one look at Sage's deteriorating condition made the choice for her. Do it, she whispered. Damon's eyes met hers across their daughter's bed. Together. Luna nodded, closing her eyes and reaching for the wolf she'd kept carefully contained for 5 years. The change came slowly at first, then faster as muscle and bone began to shift beneath her skin. Her senses sharpened, her strength increased, and when she opened her eyes again they glowed with golden fire. Damon's transformation was more controlled but no less powerful. His human form remained largely unchanged except for the silver fire in his eyes and the aura of dominance that rolled off him in waves. This was the Alpha King in his full glory, and even Luna's independent Omega Wolf felt the urge to submit to his authority. But it was when their wolves touched Sage's feverish skin that the real magic happened. Luna felt the connection snap into place like a physical thing, parent to child, alpha to alpha, pack to pack. Sage's wolf lifted its head in recognition, finally understanding that it wasn't alone. The change was immediate. Sage's breathing deepened, her fever broke, and the monitors stopped their urgent beeping. But more than that, Luna could feel her daughter's power settling into new patterns, finding the guidance it had been missing. "It's working," Dr. Chen breathed. "Her vitals are stabilizing." But Luna barely heard her, because something else was happening. Her other 3 children had moved closer to the bed, drawn by instincts they didn't understand, and as they watched their sister heal, their own wolves began to respond. Kai was the first to change. His small frame began to expand, muscles developing with supernatural speed as his wolf fought to emerge. Golden eyes blazed with inner fire as his canines extended and his hands shifted into claws. "Kai," Luna said urgently, but it was too late to stop what was happening. Zara followed next, her slight build transforming with the same impossible speed. Then Finn, his quiet nature erupting into predatory grace as his wolf claimed its birthright. The combined alpha aura of 4 royal children undergoing their first shift hit the hospital like a psychic shockwave. Luna heard glass breaking somewhere in the building, felt the building structure groan under the weight of so much concentrated power. "We need to contain this," Dr. Chen said urgently. "Every supernatural within 50 miles is going to feel that." But it was already too late. Luna's enhanced hearing picked up the sound of vehicles approaching at high speed, multiple engines converging on the hospital from different directions. Some would be curious supernaturals drawn by the power surge, but others would be enemies. "Luna." Damon's voice was sharp with alarm. "We have to move. Now." But even as he spoke, Luna's phone rang. The number was blocked, but she recognized Marcus's voice immediately when she answered. "Hello, cousin," he said pleasantly. "I trust you felt that little display of power? Quite impressive. I'm sure half the supernatural community is converging on your location as we speak." "What do you want, Marcus?" "I want what's mine. My rightful place as Damon's heir, unchallenged by bastard children who should never have survived." His voice turned cold. "But since you insist on making this difficult, I've decided to take a more direct approach." Luna's blood turned to ice. "What have you done?" "I've borrowed something that belongs to you. The oldest boy, Kai, isn't it? Such a strong little alpha. It would be a shame if something happened to him." Luna spun around, her eyes frantically scanning the room. Sage was still unconscious but breathing normally. Zara and Finn stood by the window, their partial shifts still rippling through their small bodies. But Kai was gone. "Where is he?" Luna's voice came out as a growl. "Safe, for now. But not for long if you don't do exactly what I tell you." Marcus's voice carried smug satisfaction. "You're going to come home, Luna. Back to Pac Lands, back to the place where you were rightfully banished. And you're going to bring Damon with you. That's suicide. You have allies there, people who believe your lies about me. Then you'd better be very convincing when you tell them the truth." Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "You have until tomorrow night. The old stone circle where you were rejected, how poetic, don't you think? Come alone with Damon, no backup, no tricks. Or little Kai pays the price for his parents' mistakes." The line went dead. Luna stared at the phone, her mind racing through impossible choices. Return to Pac Lands meant walking into Marcus's trap, facing a court that had already judged her guilty once. But staying meant condemning her son to whatever Marcus had planned for him. "What did he say?" Damon's voice was deadly quiet. Luna met his silver eyes across the hospital bed. "He has Kai. He wants us to meet him in Pack territory tomorrow night. It's a trap. Of course it's a trap. Luna's voice broke on the words. But he's my son, Damon. I can't just leave him. Damon moved around the bed to stand beside her, his presence both comforting and terrifying. We won't leave him. But we won't walk blindly into Marcus's trap, either. Then what do you suggest? Because I've been running from Pack politics for 5 years, and my children have paid the price for my cowardice. Luna gestured to Sage's unconscious form. She almost died because I was too proud to ask for help. Now Kai's been taken because I couldn't protect him. This isn't your fault, Damon said fiercely. This is mine. I let Marcus poison me against you, let him destroy our family with his lies. I should have known. Should have known what? That your own cousin was a traitor? That the evidence he presented was fabricated? Luna shook her head. We were both played, Damon. The question now is what we do about it. Dr. Chen cleared her throat diplomatically. I hate to interrupt, but we have more immediate concerns. Those vehicles I mentioned? They're here. Luna moved to the window, her enhanced senses cataloging the various scents and sounds from the parking lot below. Some of the newcomers were definitely werewolves, she could smell their distinctive musk even from the 4th floor. But there were other scents too. Vampire. Fae. Things that shouldn't exist but did. Word of the royal children is spreading, Dr. Chen said grimly. Every supernatural faction will want to know about them. Some will want to protect them, others. She trailed off meaningfully. Others will want to eliminate the threat they represent, Luna finished. She understood now why Marcus had been so eager to work with the hunters. For royal werewolf children represented a shift in supernatural power that could threaten the careful balance various factions had maintained for decades. We can't stay here, Damon said, already moving toward Sage's bed. Can she be moved? Dr. Chen checked the monitors again. She's stable, but still weak. Any significant stress could trigger another episode. More stress than being kidnapped by supernatural factions who want her dead? Luna asked pointedly. Point taken. I'll prepare a transport unit. But even as Dr. Chen left to make arrangements, Luna knew they were running out of options. They couldn't hide forever, not with 4 royal children whose power signatures were impossible to mask. They couldn't fight the entire supernatural community, not when Marcus had spent years building alliances against them. Which left only one choice: return to the Pack lands where it had all started, face the wolves who had watched her disgrace, and somehow prove that everything they believed about her was a lie. I kept evidence, Luna said suddenly. Of Marcus's deception. I never told you because I thought you'd chosen to believe him over me. Damon went very still. What kind of evidence? Luna pulled out her phone, scrolling through files she'd hoped never to use. Intercepted letters between Marcus and Vincent Redhawk. Audio recordings of him arranging for the fake photographs. Witness testimony from Pack members who saw him plant evidence in my quarters. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I've had proof of his lies for 3 years. But I was too hurt, too angry to bring it to you. Luna. I let our son be taken because I was too proud to admit I still loved you, she continued, tears streaming down her face. I let Sage nearly die because I was too afraid to ask for help. I'm a terrible mother. Damon's hands cupped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. You're the mother who kept our children alive when my rejection should have killed them. You're the mother who raised 4 extraordinary wolves with nothing but love and determination. You're not terrible, Luna. You're magnificent. The mate bond between them pulsed with his absolute conviction, and for the first time in 5 years, Luna allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could find their way back to each other. But first, they had to save their son. The stone circle, she said quietly. Tomorrow night. We face Marcus together, and we end this. Damon nodded, his silver eyes burning with determination. Together. From her bed, Sage stirred, her golden eyes fluttering open for the first time in hours. "Mama," she whispered, her voice weak but clear. "I saw something. In my dreams." Luna was at her side immediately. "What did you see, baby?" "Kai. He's scared, but he's not hurt." "Not yet." Sage's small hand gripped Luna's with surprising strength. "But Mama, the bad man isn't working alone. There are others with him. People who smell like pack but feel like strangers." Luna's heart sank. Marcus had indeed been building alliances, turning pack members against their rightful alpha king. Going back to pack lands wouldn't just mean facing Marcus, it would mean facing wolves who saw Damon's children as threats to be eliminated. "How many others?" Damon asked gently. Sage closed her eyes, accessing whatever supernatural sight allowed her to see across distances. 7. Maybe 8. They're in the big house where the pack leaders used to live. The pack council hall. Marcus had taken Kai to the very heart of pack territory, surrounded himself with allies, and was daring them to come face him on his chosen ground. It was suicide. It was also their only option. Dr. Chen, Luna called as the pediatrician returned with a portable medical unit. "How quickly can you make Sage strong enough to travel?" "Travel?" "She just came out of a potentially fatal fever." "Marcus won't stop with Kai," Luna said grimly. "He'll come for all of them eventually. The only way to keep my children safe is to end this permanently." Dr. Chen studied Luna's face, then nodded slowly. "I can stabilize her for transport, but she'll need constant monitoring. And if she has another episode..." "She won't," Damon said with quiet conviction. "Her pack is with her now. Her wolf knows it's not alone anymore." As if to prove his point, Sage's color improved visibly, her breathing becoming deeper and more regular. The bond they'd forged was holding, giving her the strength she needed to face whatever came next. "Then we go to war," Luna said quietly, looking at her remaining children, Zara with her fierce protectiveness, Finn with his quiet wisdom, and Sage with her otherworldly sight. "We save Kai, we expose Marcus's lies, and we reclaim our place in the pack that cast us out." "Together," Damon repeated, and this time it sounded like a vow. Outside, more vehicles were arriving, their occupants drawn by the scent of royal blood and the promise of power. But Luna no longer cared about hiding, about protecting her children from a world that would never accept them as they were. It was time to stop running. It was time to go home and fight for what was theirs. Chapter 4. The ancient stone circle looked exactly as Luna remembered, 12 towering granite monoliths arranged in perfect symmetry beneath the full moon, their surfaces carved with runes that predated written history. This was where werewolf kings had been crowned for 1,000 years, where sacred ceremonies bound packs together, and where 5 years ago, Luna's world had ended in public humiliation and exile. Now she stood at the circle's edge once more, Damon beside her, their remaining 3 children close enough to touch. The pack court had assembled in the traditional formation, wolves arranged by rank and bloodline, their eyes reflecting moonlight as they watched the drama unfold. Luna could smell their emotions, curiosity, hostility, uncertainty, and beneath it all, the electric anticipation of witnessing history. At the circle's center, Marcus waited with cruel patience. He'd positioned himself on the raised stone platform where the Alpha's throne normally stood, a deliberate insult that had several pack elders growling with indignation. But Luna's attention was fixed on the small figure bound to a wooden post behind him, Kai, her firstborn, his golden eyes blazing with fury even as silver chains kept his young wolf contained. "Welcome home, Luna," Marcus called out, his voice carrying across the circle with mocking warmth. "How thoughtful of you to bring the whole family. Makes this so much more efficient." "Let him go," Luna said quietly, but her voice carried to every wolf present. "This is between us." Marcus laughed, the sound sharp as breaking glass. "Oh, but it's so much more than that now, isn't it? The lost Luna returns with her bastard children, claiming their royal heirs. The pack deserves to know the truth about your creative interpretation of loyalty." Murmurs rippled through the assembled wolves, and Luna felt the weight of their judgment like a physical thing. Many of these wolves had been present 5 years ago when Marcus had presented his fabricated evidence. They'd watched her fall from grace, watched their Alpha King reject his mate in disgust. To them, she was still the Omega who'd betrayed her pack for rival connections. The truth, Damon said, stepping forward with lethal grace, is something you've spent 5 years obscuring, cousin. But fortunately, Luna kept records of your deceptions. Luna pulled out her phone, her hands steady despite the chaos of emotions churning through her. Recorded conversations between Marcus and Vincent Redhawk, dated 3 months before my supposed infidelity. Financial records showing payments to the photographer who created the fake images. Testimony from pack members who witnessed Marcus planting evidence in my quarters. She activated the first recording, and Marcus's voice filled the stone circle, crystal clear in the night air. The Omega is becoming too influential with Damon. Her children will threaten your position as heir. We need to eliminate her before she solidifies her power as Luna. The response came in Vincent Redhawk's distinctive gravelly voice, and in return, I get access to Silvercrest territory for my pack's expansion. You're certain this plan will work? Damon sees what he wants to see. A few compromising photographs, some fabricated evidence, and his pride will do the rest. He'll reject her publicly, probably banish her. Problem solved. The silence that followed was deafening. Luna watched faces change throughout the crowd, confusion, shock, dawning understanding. Elder Sarah Moonwhisper, the pack's oldest surviving matriarch, stepped forward with slow deliberation. These recordings, they predate the supposed betrayal by months, she said, her ancient voice carrying absolute authority. Marcus was planning Luna's downfall before any infidelity could have occurred. Clever forgeries, Marcus said dismissively, but Luna caught the first hint of uncertainty in his pale eyes. Audio can be manipulated. Digital evidence can be falsified. You can't seriously believe. He was cut off by a sound that raised the hair on every werewolf's neck, a harmony of voices too young and too powerful for human throats. Luna spun toward her children and felt her heart stop. Zara, Finn, and Sage had moved away from her and Damon, positioning themselves at 3 points around the stone circle. As Luna watched in amazement, they began to sing, not with their human voices, but with the ancient wolf song that had been used in royal ceremonies for generations. The melody was haunting, beautiful, and impossibly complex. It spoke of blood and bone, of moonlight and ancient magic, of power passed from one generation to the next through sacred bloodlines. But what made Luna's breath catch was that no one had taught them this song. The knowledge seemed to flow from their wolves themselves, genetic memory awakening in response to their location and the crisis facing their family. The effect on the assembled pack was immediate and profound. Every wolf present felt the pull of that ancient music, the call of royal blood that couldn't be faked or fabricated. One by one, the pack members began to shift into their partial forms, their wolves recognizing the authority in the children's voices. Impossible, Elder Moonwhisper breathed. The song of royal bloodlines hasn't been heard in over 2 centuries. Only the purest alpha bloodlines can access that genetic memory. But the children weren't finished. As their song reached its crescendo, something extraordinary happened. The carved runes on the stone monoliths began to glow with soft silver light, responding to the power in their voices. The ancient magic that protected this sacred space was awakening, recognizing the presence of true royal heirs. They're performing the rite of acknowledgement, another elder whispered in awe. The stones themselves are confirming their bloodline. Marcus's face had gone pale, but his voice remained steady. Parlor tricks and coincidence. Even if these children carry alpha blood, it doesn't change what their mother did. It doesn't erase the betrayal. What betrayal? Kai's voice cut across the circle like a blade. Luna's heart clenched as she saw her son struggle against his silver bonds, his young wolf fighting to join his sibling's ceremony. The only betrayal here is yours, Marcus Silvercrest. Silence, boy. Your mother has filled your head with lies. My mother kept us alive when your lies should have killed us. Kai's golden eyes blazed with alpha fire. She raised us alone, worked herself to exhaustion to keep us fed and safe, never once spoke against our father even though you made him reject us. His voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the circle. And she kept evidence of your treachery because she knew someday the truth would matter more than her broken heart. The words hit the assembled pack like a physical blow. Luna felt the shift in their emotions, doubt turning to certainty, hostility transforming into sympathy and anger on her behalf. These wolves had known her before Marcus's deception, had seen her dedication to their alpha and their pack. Now they were remembering the woman she'd been before lies and manipulation destroyed her reputation. Enough games, Marcus snarled, his careful facade finally cracking. None of this changes the fundamental reality. Damon is weak, his judgment compromised by sentiment. The pack needs stronger leadership. He moved with supernatural speed, producing a curved silver blade that gleamed with deadly purpose. But instead of attacking Luna or the children, he turned toward Damon with killing intent. I challenge you for leadership of this pack, cousin. By ancient right, by combat, to the death. Damon stepped forward to accept the challenge, but Luna caught the slight stumble in his gait, the way his breathing seemed more labored than it should be. Through their reformed mate bond, she felt his struggle, a weakness that had been growing for months, sapping his strength so gradually he'd barely noticed. You're tired, aren't you? Marcus said conversationally, circling Damon like a predator sizing up wounded prey. More exhausted than you should be, slower to heal from minor injuries. I don't suppose you've wondered why? Luna's blood turned to ice as understanding struck her. Silver-laced wolfsbane, she whispered. You've been poisoning him. Marcus's smile was razor-sharp. Just small doses, mixed into his morning coffee, his evening wine. Not enough to kill, I needed him functional while I eliminated the threats to my succession. But enough to weaken him when the time came for a direct challenge. The admission sent shockwaves through the pack court. Poisoning an alpha was among the most serious crimes in werewolf law, punishable by death or exile. But more than that, it explained so much. Damon's increasing reliance on Marcus's judgment, his failure to question evidence that should have raised immediate suspicions, his inability to sense the lies that had destroyed his family. The poison affects cognitive function too, Marcus continued, clearly enjoying his moment of revelation. Makes the victim more susceptible to suggestion, more likely to accept information without critical analysis. It's how I convinced you Luna was betraying the pack, your own mind was compromised. Damon swayed on his feet, the full impact of months of systematic poisoning finally catching up with him. You, all of it, everything I believed about Luna, was fed to you by me, one carefully crafted lie at a time. Marcus raised his silver blade, preparing to strike while his cousin was vulnerable. And now it's time to finish what I started 5 years ago. But before he could move, Luna stepped between them. No, she said quietly, and something in her voice made every wolf in the circle freeze. If you want a challenge for pack leadership, you challenge both of us. I am Damon's Luna, his true mate, and by ancient law, an attack on him is an attack on me. You're nothing, Marcus sneered. A rejected Omega with no status, no power. I am the mother of the next generation of royal heirs, Luna interrupted, her voice growing stronger with each word. I am the mate who survived a rejection that should have killed her and her children. I am the Luna who kept her family alive through 5 years of exile and struggle. She looked directly at Marcus, her golden eyes blazing with inner fire. And I am the Omega whose power you never understood. The change began slowly, a warmth spreading through Luna's body as she reached for abilities she'd kept buried for years. Omega wolves were rare, their gifts often misunderstood by packs that valued physical strength over other forms of power. But Luna's bloodline carried something special, the legendary ability to heal, to strengthen, to draw poison from wounded bodies and spirits. She placed her hands on Damon's chest, feeling the silver-laced wolfsbane burning through his system like acid. Let me help, she whispered. Luna, you don't have to. Yes, I do. She met his silver eyes, seeing past 5 years of pain to the man who'd mated with her under the full moon. This is what it means to be Luna. This is what it means to love someone enough to risk everything. The healing began as a trickle of warmth flowing from her hands into his body, her Omega abilities targeting the poison that had been slowly killing him. But as Luna opened herself fully to the ancient power running through her bloodline, something extraordinary happened. The warmth became a river of silver light, visible to every wolf present. The glow spread from her hands to encompass Damon's entire body, burning away months of accumulated toxins with ruthless efficiency. But more than that, Luna felt her power connecting to her children, drawing strength from their royal bloodlines and channeling it back to their father. The Omega of legend, Elder Moon Whisper breathed. The healing light of the moon goddess herself. It's been prophesied for centuries, an Omega whose power could heal entire packs, whose children would reshape the supernatural world. Luna felt the prophecy settling around her like a mantle of starlight, but her focus remained on Damon. She could feel his strength returning, the clarity flooding back into his silver eyes as the last of the poison burned away. Through their bond, she felt his wonder, his gratitude, and beneath it all, the love that had never truly died despite Marcus's manipulation. But even as Damon's health returned, Luna realized the healing had cost her. The amount of power she'd channeled, the years of poison she'd neutralized, it left her drained, swaying on her feet with exhaustion. "Mama." Kai's voice cracked with worry, and Luna saw her son struggling more violently against his bonds. "Mama, you're hurt." "I'm fine," she started to say, but Marcus chose that moment to strike. "Touching," he snarled, raising his silver blade. "But ultimately pointless. Kill the parents, eliminate the children, and the throne is mine regardless of bloodlines or prophecies." He moved with lethal speed toward Luna's vulnerable form, but he'd forgotten about the 3 children still positioned around the stone circle. As one, Zara, Finn, and Sage abandoned their ceremonial song and channeled their combined power into something far more practical. The silver chains binding Kai shattered like glass. The wooden post exploded into splinters. And Kai himself underwent a transformation that left every adult wolf speechless, not just a partial shift, but something far more dramatic. Luna's firstborn grew 6 inches in as many seconds, his 4-year-old frame expanding with supernatural speed as his royal bloodline fully awakened. When the transformation finished, he stood nearly as tall as a human teenager, his body radiating the kind of alpha presence usually reserved for pack leaders decades older. "You want to hurt my family?" Kai's voice had deepened, carrying the authority of born leadership. "You'll have to go through me first." The other children were changing too, their own partial shifts becoming more pronounced as they fed off their brother's power. Zara's hands had become claws that could tear through steel. Finn's senses expanded until he could track a heartbeat from across the circle. And Sage's golden eyes held depths of otherworldly knowledge that made hardened warriors look away in awe. For royal children, fully awakened, standing together against the wolf who tried to destroy their family before they were even born. Marcus hesitated for the first time, calculating his chances against such unprecedented power. But before he could make his decision, Damon stepped forward, no longer weak or confused, his own alpha presence blazing like a beacon. "The challenge stands," he said quietly. "You wanted combat leadership, cousin. Let's finish this properly." What followed was less a fight than an execution. Months of poison had made Damon vulnerable, but Luna's healing had restored him to full strength while giving him perfect clarity about Marcus's crimes. The silver blade flashed once, twice, then clattered to the stone as Marcus found himself pinned beneath his cousin's superior strength. "Yield," Damon commanded, his voice carrying absolute alpha authority. "Never," Marcus gasped. "I'll never." "Then face the judgment of your pack." Damon looked up at the assembled wolves, seeing the condemnation in their eyes. "Marcus Silvercrest, you stand accused of treason, of poisoning your alpha, of fabricating evidence to destroy an innocent Luna, of kidnapping royal children, and of conspiracy with enemies of this pack. How do you answer these charges?" Marcus's response was a snarl of rage and a final, desperate attempt to reach his fallen blade. But Kai was there first, the enhanced 4-year-old moving with impossible speed to kick the weapon beyond his uncle's reach. "I answer," Marcus said with bitter dignity, "that I regret only one thing, not finishing what I started 5 years ago." The admission sealed his fate. By pack law, treason was punishable by death or permanent exile. But it was Elder Moon Whisper who spoke the final judgment. "Marcus Silvercrest, you are hereby stripped of your pack membership, your bloodline rights, and your connection to this territory. You have until dawn to leave Silvercrest lands. If you return, you will be killed on sight. As guards moved to escort Marcus away, Luna felt Damon's arms come around her, steadying her as the full impact of what had happened began to sink in. They'd won. The truth had been revealed, their family was safe, and Marcus's 5-year campaign of lies and manipulation was finally over. But even as relief flooded through her, Luna knew this was just the beginning. The pack was watching them with new eyes, not just as the Alpha and his reclaimed mate, but as the prophesied rulers mentioned in ancient legends. Her children stood around them like young gods, their power barely contained, their potential unlimited. So, she said quietly, looking up at Damon's beloved face, what happens now? His smile was soft, full of love and possibilities. Now we rule together, the way it should have been from the beginning. Alpha and Luna, partners in all things. And the children? Damon looked at their 4 extraordinary babies, seeing them truly for the first time, not as threats to be eliminated or mistakes to be hidden, but as the future of their kind. They'll be raised as what they are. Royal heirs with the power to reshape the supernatural world. Luna nodded, accepting the crown she'd never wanted but would wear for the sake of her family and her pack. The Luna Queen, they would call her. The Omega of legend. The mother of the next generation of werewolf royalty. But to her, she was simply Luna Silvercrest, a woman who'd fought for love and won. The full moon hung overhead, blessing their reunion with silver light, as the new royal family prepared to face whatever challenges awaited them. Together, as they always should have been. Together, as they would always be. Epilogue. 2 years later. Luna stood on the balcony of the Silvercrest royal residence, watching her children play in the gardens below, and marveled at how much their world had changed. The sprawling estate that had once felt like a prison during those brief months before Marcus's deception now hummed with laughter and life, transformed into a true home by the family that filled its halls. Zara, if you use your claws on the climbing wall again, you're going to have to rebuild it yourself, she called down, hiding a smile as her daughter sheepishly retracted the razor-sharp talons that had been making quick work of the supposedly challenge-proof obstacle course. But Mama, it's more fun this way, Zara protested, her 6-year-old face scrunched with determination. Besides, Finn said I couldn't reach the top without cheating. I did not, Finn replied mildly from his perch in the ancient oak tree, a book balanced on his knees. Even at 6, her quiet scholar preferred reading to physical challenges, though Luna knew he could outclimb any of his siblings when properly motivated. I said you couldn't reach the top faster than Kai. There's a difference. Is not. Is too. Children, Luna said with gentle authority, and both voices fell silent. Some things about parenting never changed, royal bloodlines or not. Kai appeared around the corner of the garden maze, his 7-year-old frame already showing the height and grace that marked him as future alpha. He'd grown more in the past 2 years than should have been physically possible, though Dr. Chen assured them it was normal for royal children to mature faster than their peers. Sage is having another vision, he reported matter-of-factly, jogging toward the house with the easy confidence of someone who'd learned to take supernatural occurrences in stride. She says to tell you the delegation from the European packs will arrive 3 hours early, and they're bringing gifts that will make the baby very happy. Luna's hand moved instinctively to the gentle swell of her belly, where the newest Silvercrest heir grew strong and healthy. At 5 months pregnant, she was finally beginning to show, though this pregnancy felt different from the challenging quadruplet gestation. This baby seemed calmer, more settled, as if it already knew it would be born into love and security. Baby? Finn's head popped up from his book, golden eyes bright with interest. The baby's going to like European gifts? How can Sage know that? It's not even born yet. Sage knows lots of things, Zara said with the casual acceptance of someone who'd grown up with a prophetic sister. Remember when she told us about the chocolate cake before Mrs. Henderson even started baking it? Luna smiled, remembering that particular incident. Sage's visions had grown stronger and more frequent over the past 2 years, though they tended to focus on happy events rather than dire warnings these days. As if the universe itself had decided their family had weathered enough storms for one lifetime. "Where is your sister?" Luna asked, scanning the gardens. "Stone Circle," Kai replied. "She likes to practice her moon singing there. Says the old stones help her hear better." The Stone Circle had been transformed over the past 2 years from a place of painful memories into something beautiful and healing. Damon had ordered extensive renovations. Soft grass replaced the harsh stone platform, flowering vines were encouraged to grow around the monoliths, and comfortable seating areas were added for the packed gatherings that now happened monthly rather than only during times of crisis. Luna found Sage exactly where Kai had predicted, sitting cross-legged in the center of the circle with her eyes closed, humming a melody that seemed to make the air itself shimmer with possibilities. At 6 years old, her youngest daughter had already mastered abilities that would have challenged adult seers, though she wielded her power with the unconscious grace of someone who'd never known life without magic. "The European wolves," Sage said without opening her eyes, "they're nervous about meeting us. They've heard stories about the children who can make stones glow and sing songs that haven't been heard for centuries." She tilted her head, considering. "They're bringing carved wooden animals for the baby. Old magic in the wood, protection spells woven into the grain." "That's very thoughtful of them," Luna said, settling carefully onto the grass beside her daughter. "And the early arrival?" "Their youngest delegate is excited. She's never met royal children before, and she couldn't sleep last night thinking about it." Sage's golden eyes opened, sparkling with amusement. "She's only 12, and her parents thought this would be good practice for diplomatic meetings. But she keeps asking if we really have golden eyes all the time, or if they only glow during ceremonies." Luna laughed, imagining the young werewolf's excitement. The supernatural community had taken intense interest in their family over the past 2 years, but most of the attention had been positive. Word of the Omega of Legend and her prophesied children had spread throughout the werewolf world, bringing delegations from packs that hadn't communicated with each other in decades. "Speaking of golden eyes," Luna said, studying her daughter's face, "yours have been extra bright lately. Are you feeling well?" "Better than well," Sage said with the serene confidence that still sometimes unnerved Luna. "The baby makes everything clearer. Like having another voice in the family song makes all the other voices stronger." It was a beautiful way to describe what Luna had been feeling too. This pregnancy felt like a completion, a final note in a symphony that had been building for years. The bond between her and Damon was stronger than ever, their connection to their children deeper and more multifaceted, and now a new life was growing to add its own unique harmony to their family's song. "Mama," Sage said suddenly, her voice taking on the otherworldly quality that indicated incoming vision, "Daddy's coming home early too. He's bringing presents." Luna's heart fluttered with anticipation. Damon had been away for 3 days, attending a conference of North American pack leaders in the Rocky Mountains. They'd established new protocols for supernatural cooperation, drafted agreements for territorial disputes, and worked to build the kind of unity that had been Marcus's greatest fear. "What kind of presents?" Luna asked, though she was more interested in having her mate home than in whatever gifts he might bring. "The kind that sparkle," Sage said with 6-year-old delight. "And something soft for me and my brothers and sister. And..." She paused, her expression growing thoughtful. "Something that smells like promises." Before Luna could ask what that meant, the sound of vehicles approaching drew her attention toward the main road. But these weren't the European delegation, the engine sounds were too familiar, the scents carried on the wind too beloved. "Daddy!" Sage squealed, abandoning her mystical composure to race toward the house with supernatural speed. Luna followed more sedately, her hand resting on her growing belly as she made her way through the gardens. By the time she reached the front courtyard, all 4 of her children had assembled to greet their returning father, their excitement practically vibrating in the air. Damon stepped out of the lead vehicle looking every inch the Alpha King, but his formal composure melted the moment he saw his family. Luna watched the transformation she'd witnessed hundreds of times over the past 2 years, the powerful ruler becoming simply a man who loved his wife and children more than anything else in the world. "Did you miss me?" he asked, opening his arms to catch the 4 small bodies that launched themselves at him simultaneously. "Yes," came the unanimous response, followed by a chorus of overlapping voices. Kai started a new sword training routine and he wanted to show you. Zara climbed the waterfall again even though we told her it was dangerous. Finn read 3 whole books about pack history and he has questions. I saw the European wolves in my dreams and they're bringing baby presents. One at a time, Damon laughed, his silver eyes bright with joy as he tried to keep track of 4 different conversations. I want to hear everything, but first. His gaze found Luna across the courtyard, and the look that passed between them was pure, undiluted love. The mate bond that connected them hummed with contentment as he approached, his hands finding her waist and drawing her close for a kiss that tasted like coming home. Hello, beautiful, he murmured against her lips. How are you feeling? Better now that you're home, Luna replied honestly. The past 2 years had been wonderful, but she still felt most complete when her mate was beside her. The baby's been active today. I think it knows its father is coming home. Damon's hands moved to her belly, his touch gentle as he felt for their child's movement. Hello, little one, he said softly. Did you take good care of your mama while I was gone? As if in response, the baby kicked strongly enough for both parents to feel, earning delighted gasps from the 4 older children who'd clustered around them. It likes your voice, Finn observed with scientific interest. The movement patterns changed as soon as you started talking. Of course it likes Daddy's voice, Zara said with 6-year-old logic. We all like Daddy's voice. It makes us feel safe. And loved, Kai added, his mature beyond his years wisdom showing through. The baby can probably feel that through the bond. Speaking of feeling loved, Damon said, reaching into his jacket, I brought something for everyone. The presents Sage had predicted emerged one by one, delicate silver chains with moon phase pendants for each of the children, made by a renowned pack artisan in Colorado. The pendants would grow with them, the silver warming to their skin and developing unique patterns based on their individual abilities. For Luna, he produced a small velvet box that made her breath catch. Inside lay a ring unlike anything she'd ever seen, not a traditional wedding band, but something that looked like captured moonlight set in platinum, with smaller stones that seemed to pulse with their own inner fire. Luna stones, Damon explained, his voice soft with emotion. They're only found in the sacred caves beneath the Rocky Mountain Pack territories. The legend says they only respond to true mates, that they'll glow when worn by someone whose love is destined to last forever. Luna's eyes filled with tears as he slipped the ring onto her finger. The stones immediately blazed to life, their light reflecting the depth of her feelings for the man who'd given her everything she'd ever dreamed of having. It's beautiful, she whispered. Not as beautiful as you, Damon replied, sealing the sentiment with another kiss that made their children giggle and make gagging sounds in the background. What about the soft presents? Sage demanded, clearly remembering every detail of her vision. And the something that smells like promises? Damon's smile turned mysterious as he gestured toward the vehicles. His security team was unloading several large packages, but it was the medium-sized crate that had Sage bouncing with excitement. The soft presents are for all of us, Damon said, opening the first package to reveal the most luxurious blankets Luna had ever seen. They were woven from some impossibly soft material that seemed to shimmer with its own light, large enough to cover their entire family during movie nights or outdoor picnics. Pack bonding blankets, he explained. Made by the mountain weavers using techniques that have been passed down for generations. They're supposed to strengthen family connections and provide comfort during difficult times. We won't need them for difficult times, Finn said with quiet confidence. We're past all that now. Luna felt her heart swell with love for her wise, gentle son. He was right, they had weathered their storms and emerged stronger than ever. The trials that had once threatened to destroy them had instead forged them into something unbreakable. But it was the final crate that had everyone truly curious. Damon approached it with ceremony, his expression mixing excitement with something that looked almost like nervousness. The something that smells like promises, he said, meeting Luna's questioning gaze, is actually for everyone, but especially for you. The crate opened to reveal rich, dark soil that immediately filled the air with the scent of growing things and new beginnings. But this wasn't ordinary dirt, Luna could smell the magic woven through it, the ancient power that spoke of sacred groves and moonlit ceremonies. Soil from the moon grove, Damon explained, his voice reverent. The sacred forest where the first werewolf mating ceremonies were performed, where the goddess herself is said to have blessed the bonds between true mates. He took Luna's hands in his silver eyes blazing with emotion. I want to plant a garden for our family. Herbs that will grow stronger because they're nurtured by sacred earth, flowers that will bloom under every full moon, trees that will shade our great-great-grandchildren. Luna felt tears streaming down her face as the full meaning of his gift hit her. He wasn't just giving her a garden, he was giving her a symbol of their forever, a living testament to the love that had survived betrayal and separation and every obstacle fate had thrown at them. A garden that will grow with our family, she whispered. A garden where our children can learn about their heritage, where they can connect with the magic in their bloodlines. Damon's voice was rough with emotion. A garden where we can hold ceremonies under the full moon, where we can celebrate every milestone and weather every storm. Where the baby can take its first steps, Sage added dreamily, her prophetic sight already showing her glimpses of the future. Where we can have packed gatherings when our friends visit, Kai said, his natural leadership already thinking about community and connection. Where I can read under the shade trees, Finn said with satisfaction. Where I can practice my climbing without destroying the house, Zara added with a grin that made everyone laugh. Luna looked at her extraordinary family. Her mate whose love had conquered his own pride and prejudice, her children whose power was matched only by their capacity for joy, the new life growing within her that would complete their perfect circle, and felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of her blessings. Yes, she said simply. Let's plant a garden. Let's grow something beautiful together. The rest of the day passed in a blur of joyful activity. The European delegation arrived exactly 3 hours early, just as Sage had predicted, bearing the promised wooden animals and wide-eyed wonder at meeting the legendary royal family. The young delegate turned out to be a charming 12-year-old named Astrid who peppered the children with questions about their abilities and left promising to write letters about everything she'd learned. As evening approached and their guests departed, the Silvercrest family gathered in the stone circle for their weekly family ritual. It was something they'd started after reclaiming their place in the pack, a time to connect with each other and with the ancient magic that flowed through their bloodlines. Luna sat with her back against one of the monoliths, Damon's arms around her and their children arranged in a semicircle before them. The pregnant curve of her belly was visible now even through her loose clothing, and she could feel the baby responding to the peaceful energy surrounding them. Tell us a story, Mama, Sage requested, snuggling closer to her parents. What kind of story would you like? Luna asked. The beginning story, Kai said immediately. About how you and Daddy first met. It had become their favorite tale, the love story that had led to their existence. Luna exchanged a look with Damon, seeing the same mixture of pain and gratitude in his eyes that she felt whenever they revisited their early days. Once upon a time, she began, her voice taking on the rhythm of ancient storytelling, there was an Alpha King who thought he knew everything about love and loyalty. And there was an Omega who believed in happily ever after, Damon continued, picking up the familiar thread. They met under a full moon, just like this one, Luna said, gesturing toward the silver disk hanging overhead. And they knew immediately that they were meant to be together forever. But sometimes, Sage said solemnly, having heard this story dozens of times, even true mates have to fight for their forever. That's right, baby girl. They had to learn that love isn't just about the easy times, it's about choosing each other even when everything goes wrong. It's about forgiveness, Finn added quietly. And second chances, Zara said. And never giving up on your family, Kai concluded with the wisdom of someone who'd lived through separation and reunion. And now? Luna asked, looking at each of her children's faces in turn. Now they live happily ever after, all 4 children chorused. With their beautiful, powerful, extraordinary children, Damon added, his voice warm with love and pride. And baby makes 5, Sage said, patting Luna's belly gently. And a garden full of magic, Finn said. And adventures every day, Zara said. And love that lasts forever, Kai said. Luna felt the baby kick as if agreeing with its siblings' assessment of their life. Around them, the stone circle hummed with contentment, the ancient magic recognizing the completion of a story that had begun in pain but ended in joy. Forever and always, Damon murmured against her ear, his words for her alone. Forever and always, Luna agreed, tilting her head back to meet his kiss. Above them, the full moon blessed their reunion with silver light, just as it had blessed their first meeting all those years ago. The Silvercrest royal family was home at last, surrounded by love and magic and the promise of countless tomorrows filled with happiness. And in the sacred earth that would soon become their family garden, new life was already beginning to stir, ready to grow strong in the light of their eternal love. The end, and the beginning. Thank you for listening to this story. Like, share and subscribe for more.